Welcome back. Indonesia is bracing for a worst-case scenario from prolonged coronavirus pandemic that is already hitting small businesses and informal sectors. This might bring the economy into a recession. And this such statement was delivered by Indonesia Minister of Finance, Sri Mulyani, in a teleconference on Wednesday. Based on the Ministry of Finance assessment, she predicted that Indonesia's economic growth would decline into 2.3%, even to minus 0.4% in the worst-case scenario. And the request of President Joko Widodo, the Financial System Stability Committee, or KSSK, which includes Bank of Indonesia, the Finance Ministry, and Financial Services Authority, or OJK, and also the Deposit Insurance Corporations, or LPS, conducted studies that the team prepared two scenarios for the country's economic outlook, which are bad and worst case. One of the sectors that got hit the most by the pandemic is small-medium enterprises. A hit on this sector would undermine Indonesia's household consumptions, which accounts for more than a half of the industry's economy. And based on these calculations, the government is giving incentive for small-medium enterprises and informal workers to propose easiness in paying credit installment. The Financial Services Authority, or OJK, issuing regulations number 1103 year 2020 concerning about the national economic stimulus as the counter-cyclical policy. So the incentive program realizations can have a legal base. Fears are growing that Indonesia economic downturn could be especially deep and lengthy, with the recovery limited by continued anxiety. And we cannot even deny, on the other hand, government intensifies restrictions on the business to halt the spread of this pandemic. And as fear of the coronavirus reconfigures the very concept of public space, impeding consumer-led economic growth. And the good side is the government has come up with a scheme to offer social assistance for informal workers impacted by the coronavirus disease outbreak. And now we are connected to the chairman of Indonesian Financial Services Associations, Suwandi Wiratno, to talk these newly issued regulations in financial services perspective. Hello, sir. How are you, sir?
Yeah, hi Clara. I'm fine.
Hello, sir.
Yes. Hi, good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you for your time with us. So, sir, accelerating the provisions of incentives to informal sector workers through a counter-cyclical policy. That was actually President Joko Widodo's order to all levels of his governments, responding to the spread of coronavirus, which began to ravage the economy that we know. And that the thing that I want to ask is that how is actually the financial industry translating these regulations on incentives for informal workers as adapters?
Yeah, well, when the government giving a guidance for everyone to work from home, and I guess probably the worst part of it for those informal sectors, whereby a lot of people that works on informal sectors, they'll be hit the most. And majority of them who are actually working as the online drivers and those people who are actually having a variable income will be hit by not having an income because people working at home. And because of that, then the government of Indonesia, through President Joko Widodo and also the head of the Financial Service Authority, Pak Wimbo Santoso, give us a guidance that, as the multi-finance company, majority of those people are actually the customers of our industry. And we have to be aware that I think their installment may be not be able to be met on the next couple of months. And because of that, I think we need to sort of restructure and reschedule their payment behaviors.
I see, sir. By putting this program into realizations, will this affect this business dynamics?
Well, when you talk about affecting the business, definitely, because when we don't have the payment from those customers, I guess probably what will affect us, because we have the obligation also to pay our obligation to the banks. And due to that circumstances, I think we have been in discussion with OJK as well, to actually kind of do a back-to-back discussions, because if we then give an incentive to our customers of sort of delaying their payments, So we are going to be helped as well by the Financial Service Authority in discussion with our banking. The bankers are actually give us sort of the funding.
I see. When we talk about this financial industries, how does it work for the financial industries such as bank and multi-finance? Is there any incentive for this given following?
Yeah, like, you know, as probably everyone needs to be kind of like conscious and aware that 80% of our fundings are from the banks, and the incentive that will be given to our customers merely we need to sort of do some assessment individual by individuals on how bad their income hit by the whole situations, because as I think, you know, the coronavirus has been sort of like a pandemic now and sort of like announced by the World Health Organization as well. And because of that, again, I think we need to sort of like, you know, every multi-finance company need to check on their customers, need to go and do some assessments. If they're, you know, if they are badly hit, and I think we need to sort of like delaying their installment. But I think the delaying installment, what OJK or Financial Service Authority has sort of given us a guidance, that can be maximum of 1 year, but it doesn't, it should not supposed to be a year, but we can actually do it on a gradual basis.
Oh, I see. You mentioned a couple of times about coronavirus, COVID-19, which is a pandemic right now. And how far is actually the COVID-19 affects the financing industry?
Can you say it again, because I can't hear the question?
Yes, how far is the COVID-19 affects financing industry?
Well, you know, we can't actually do some quantifications right now because, you know, no one will be, you know, we will definitely want this pandemic to be actually getting over soon. But, you know, as the times goes getting longer and longer, I think it will affect the whole financial industry. I think it will not only the multi-finance industry, but it will also affect the whole financial sectors if these cases are not going to be solved sort of like sooner.
Yes, talking about the counter-cyclical policy, especially for the further delayed installment deadline, since when actually this program will be available?
You know, IPPI, as the Indonesian Multi-Finance Association, has issued the announcement on March 29, and I think since that day, March 29, that was Monday, that has been effective. The program has actually been effective.
Until when, actually?
Well, it's going. It's ongoing basis, and I think you know, if you ask me until when, until everything's kind of going back to normal. Because you know, if everything going back to normal, everyone goes back to on street, everyone goes back to works, and I think, you know, people are getting more income, and they can start do the payment.
All right. Actually, that's kind of hard to guess, don't you think?
Definitely, because, you know. But I think what the government has done to actually urge everyone to stay at home and, you know, not to really go out, because that probably can solve and flattening the sort of the because it's very contagious, right? So what the government wants to everyone to stay at home, not to really get out, so everyone probably will be stay healthy and safe.
I see. And talk about the incentives on installment programs. How many actually submissions submitted already?
Until yesterday, what we have the information, I think there are about 10,000 over application has been submitted to the industry.
Oh, I see. Can you elaborate any qualifications that need to be fulfilled by these debtors?
Yeah, well, I think those who are eligible to apply for sort of like this incentive, definitely, first of all, I think it should be a debtors, that customers of a multi-finance company, and the debtors has to perform well payment prior to the announcement of this coronavirus in Indonesia, and the collateral or the vehicle has to be with the possessions of the customers, and the customers has to prove that their income actually somehow went down because of the whole situation. it'll be very easy just to prove your savings account, to prove that you are not getting sort of like a regular income any longer, and to prove that the vehicle's with you, and you prove it that you are the debtors. Because sometimes what really happens, the story probably can change. When someone comes and apply for the incentive, when we ask, are you the debtor of the company? And definitely he actually has the possessions of the vehicles, but he's not the debtors. So that would be very difficult for us to actually approve the applications, because we need to actually then know more why he has the possession of the vehicles.
I see. You mentioned a lot of times about vehicles and so on. Do you think that actually vehicle is really heavily impacted with this COVID-19? Or is there any sectors that really got hit most rather than vehicles?
Yeah, well, because majority of our portfolio, 60% to 70%, the collateral that is given to our business are the two-wheelers and four-wheelers, because we are probably the biggest lenders for those people who actually want to have motorcycles and cars. By fact, I think they can actually collateralize their vehicles to us as well in order for them to get a working capital facility.
Indonesian Financial Services Associations.
I think we have to be very positive what the government has actually had in mind, and also the Financial Service Authority kind of following up with their regulations. And I think we really need to help for those people who can't afford to pay the payments for everyone to actually work together to overcome the whole issues, where the governments are now working so hard to overcome the health issues on this pandemic of coronavirus. For those banks, multi-finance company, for those in the financial sectors, I think we really need to work hand in hand to actually help for those who can, for those who are affected, and for those who are not affected. I think if they do and continue the payment, I think the economy will be be taken care well.
So we can say that we hope that all stakeholders can work together to combat this COVID-19 economic consequences, right?
Correct.
Yes. Thank you for your time with us, sir, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Yes, viewers, stay tuned on Market Headlines, because we will be right back after the break.